Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host GamerK, and it is time for another game review. And this one with the impending sequel of Ryu Ga Gotoku Studio's spin-off sequel, Lost Judgment, coming out this Friday. And I got a pre-order, so I'm hell excited for it. I am going to review the game that got me into this, which was three years ago, I believe, Judgment. Which, in Japan, it was originally going to be called Judge Eyes, but I think that they changed it to Judgment. I don't know why. So this is a spin-off series from the Yakuza game series. Now, granted, I never played the Yakuza games in my life until a good number of years ago when Yakuza 0 came out, that I watched a game reviewer. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to put his name, but he's one of my favorite game reviewers, and he spoke highly of the game. So when trailers for Judgment came out, I was a little ecstatic, mostly because if it's a crime game, I will give it a shot because I love the mystery, I love the investigation, I love that type of genre. And honestly, seeing how it was based in the criminal underworld of Japan in Kamurocho, and seeing the fight mechanics and how the game is kind of stacked into this one somewhat small city, I was a little worried. But all honesty, this game, much like Yakuza 0, has, even though it's in a small area, it's still as vast as Las Vegas. And I mean that wholeheartedly. There is nothing that makes you not feel like there's life in this game. So let's start with the review, and I've already kind of praised it, but like I said, whereas a lot of games that have open world adventure, but there's little going on, like you're literally stuck in the plains, grass plains, and there's nothing going on, but this game has a small setting of the Kamurocho city, and all honesty, it's alive. There's gangsters, there's shops, there's everything, and it just makes you feel like you're in a legitimate city. A small city, mind you, but still baffled, full of life and energy. Now, the game did come out, okay, so 2 years ago. The game did come out in 2019, and all honesty, I was ecstatic. I did not know exactly how I was going to feel about the game, because once I play a game, I kind of commit to it. Except for Persona 5, which I still haven't beaten, but it's still such a great game. Judgment, though, hits every marker. Also, I'm thinking, like, maybe once I beat Lost Judgment, I'm going to replay this game, and maybe I'm going to switch it up by having the original Japanese voice actors, like the original Japanese dub, because I did play it with the English dub, because to make it a little bit better for me. But I'm a little curious. I'm gonna play both. I'm gonna play both this and the next game in the original Japanese dubbed when I get a little downtime to relax. Just a little guilty pleasure game to do, because I played a little bit of it with the Japanese, but then I switched to the English because just for easier for me to follow, because I watch enough Japanese shows with subtitles. But all honesty, it's beautiful. And the English dub, you can obviously tell where it kind of screws up with the lip sync, but it still works. But I'll get to that in a minute. So, the main story for Judgment is, all honesty, with its 13-chapter story, much like the Yakuza 0, this game does everything it can to hammer that story into you. And I love that. And it kind of spirals off to other subplots, but at the same time, it still ranks around the central story, where we play as former lawyer for the former lawyer, now private eye, Takayuki Yamaki. I hope I'm saying that right. I know I got the Yagami. Sorry, I misread the letter. Yagami. I know I got that part right. Who is voiced by the incredible Greg Chen, who is such an amazing voice actor, and I want him, Greg Chun, and I want him to be in a lot more games in the future, and maybe even a TV show once in a while. The voice acting in this game is as big a part of it as its combat and its other games and its other gameplay. The story, the characters, the voicing, it just makes you feel like you're watching a legitimate crime show, but in Japan. And I love that. This entire game just sinks you into the world. I mean, if you are a Yakuza fan, the Yakuza games fan, I'm babbling. If you're a fan of the Yakuza game series, this is a game that you have to play. Or if you just like crime games in general, like me. The central story is a good couple years why he quit. We kind of get a little subtext via the flashback cutscenes in the beginning. And it shows that he made a mistake by getting... One second, guys. Here we go. Sorry, I gotta go through my notes once in a while in order to remember things. He got a client off Okubo he got him off on a murder of a man at a hospital. And then days after he's released, his girlfriend is murdered, and he's at the scene, and the apartment's on fire, and he is arrested for that murder. And that's when Yagami cracks and thinks he let a murderer off the hook. So he quit being a lawyer. In all honesty, being a PI, I really like it. He's got the black leather jacket, he's got the ripped jeans, he's got that frizzy haircut, which I love. Oh, one thing before I start, the opening of this game, Arpeggio, the song, go check out the opening. Go check out the song in general. I am not kidding. It's like an anime opening. It's done somewhat in English and mostly in Japanese. And the opening is just beautiful. The imagery they choose to use by showing the cast, but it's not in a way that kind of reveals the big story in the end. But oh my God, like I said, it is exactly like watching a Japanese crime drama, and with all the added perks of the obvious weirdness that I'm gonna get to later. So after being thrusted into a murder investigation of a lot of gang members who their eyes are removed for some unknown reason. This drags us back into Yagami's old life in the Yakuza, and it just clashes with the new story of a mysterious drug being developed, and the conspiracy behind the Okubo case is brought into light. And throughout this 13-chapter game, we are thrown curveballs left and right. And all honesty, it just makes me feel good because when I can't predict what the twist is going to be, it's enjoyable for me, because every time I can kind of guess what's going to happen, it kind of decreases the excitement for me. But in this game, I went in full eyes closed, and it was a beautiful game. The combat in the game is another highlight of the Yakuza game series, having really quick brawl fests. And in this game, we have two different styles. We've got the Tiger, which is really fast and aggressive, and then we can switch to the Crane style, which is more kicks and more fluid ability. And all honesty, I honestly didn't think I was going to enjoy the combat in the game, so I would probably avoid it most of the time. But at the same time, it's fantastic. And just the additional add-ins to taking down enemies is gorgeous. While they have baseball bats and guns and swords, we just have to use our hands. And basically anything that we can find, like a broom, a mailbox for some reason. It's all enjoyable. And the combat definitely hits its high note in the boss fights, which I will get to later on. I want to get to certain parts of the game. In all honesty, one thing that makes this game a Yakuza game is the side quests. Now, I'm not going to go so much into the main story like in most games, because this one, it's a mystery, so you need to stay in the dark a little bit. But the side missions are what makes the Yakuza games enjoyable. Whereas in Yakuza 0 I watched, and a good majority of them were really screwed up, but enjoyable at the same time. These are, again, some of the most outrageous, enjoyable, spontaneous, intense moments that I can ever see in side missions. And there's about, let's see, there is about, what the heck? I thought about 40-ish side missions, and they range from finding this information at the local bar or at the law firm where you have friends. And I'm gonna be honest, they do a lot of parody fun, like in a later side mission where you make a whole bunch of friends and you're all fighting this one dude. Yagami says the Kingdom Hearts line, "My friends are my power," and it's just enjoyable. There's this one where you and a junior lawyer are fighting a case of what happened to the treats that are in the fridge. And they even do the Ace Attorney objection thing. I will find it. I will show you right here. It's all going to be right here. I'm going to move aside so I'm not caught in the way. Right here. They do the objection. They even okay, in one, I'm going to get to the side missions, I promise. They are so twisted and fun, like chasing this guy's pompadour wig that constantly is being blown from the wind, and we gotta chase it down. I'm not kidding. We have to find a dead mob boss's cat, and there's a war for this cat for some reason. I'm not gonna spoil it. We have to find out if a guy's wife is in fact a future Black Widow by tailing her. And the tailing in the game is honestly a lot better tailings than I've ever seen in any game. The way we can just quickly go behind things and avoid being detected, it's enjoyable as heck. We've got honeypot missions. We have using our RC chopper to take photos of high spots like an actual PI would. What other side missions do we have? We've got a massacre at a koi pond fishing area, which is literally a front for underground gambling. And then there's, I know I said that there are some, or helping a guy find his long-lost girlfriend or wife or something to that effect. I can't remember all the little details, but the twist in the end, you can kind of see it coming. I didn't, but it was still enjoyable. And then, okay, this is the creepy shit. I'm not kidding. We find out from this one girl and her twin brother who, oh, by the way, 4 of the side characters in this game we can actually date. And yeah, there's dating in this game, which honestly is all good fun. And these two tell us about a disturbing trio of people in this who are called, and I kid you not, the Twisted Trio, which are basically a bunch of perverts, and they all have their weird names like Judge Peep and Creep, Ass Catch'em. I wish I was making this up. Where is Quagmire in this group? Seriously, I'm surprised they didn't make a joke where one of them went, exactly. Oh, dear God. Like, it is just that twisted amount, or sometimes we had to pretend to be an actor and be his bodyguard so he can go off and do stuff. Like, it's just the insane amount of creativity that they put into these side missions that makes you want more of them. And all honesty, there's not one that I dislike. Okay, there are some that are annoying, but there's none that I dislike, and that's a good trait for this game. It's so cool And you can purchase stuff at the shops, which kind of increase your level of likability with the shop's owner, which will lead you to do other side missions for these people. And it just shows that that it actually matters, because near the end of the game, all the people that you've befriended in the Kamurocho city will legitimately help you later on. Like, if you're in a thug fight, like, the one thing that does get annoying in this game are the thug brawls, where it just happens randomly in the city, and they will go at you and start a fight. If you're near one of the shop owners, they will throw you weapons, they will throw you energy drinks to boost up your health. And all honesty, that's an added touch. It just shows how much you are dependent on in this community. And it shows. And it's just beautifully done. As you go more with this, the shop's ranks will rise up, and you will become more friends with them, like I said. And it's one of the few parts of side missions that doesn't make it feel tedious or a grind to do. Like, you can stop at these shops whenever you want and do them in any order. Although there are some missions that have a higher level of difficulty, so you will need to come back. And it's honestly really good. There's even one where, I kid you not, some of these side missions are locked off until you reach a certain level in certain aspects. Like, when you go to a girlfriend cafe or a maid cafe, I'm not really sure, you have to build up your alcohol tolerance in order to progress through this story, because you will pass out if you drink too much. And that's a whole part of the story. Also, when you drink, your fighting moves are bizarre, and you can do this quick little, like, you hit the triangle button and it will do this fight transition. And just seeing Yagami fight and singing "The more I drink, the stronger I get," it's just all good fun. Even the combat becomes silly with some of the moments in the game, and it's just fantastic. And not even including the side mini games. And just like in the original Yakuza 0, there's not as much, but there's a really good amount. There's racing your RC copters in races in order to get parts to customize it and have its performance be better. There's a VR dice game where it's honestly pretty fun. It's just something that you can just kick back and play something real silly in order to get prizes. And some of them are like side quest necessary, or helping someone like in the community. I'm 100% sure. And the dice game is really fun. It's one of the few games where a VR section, okay, you're in the VR, you don't have to wear the VR helmet. There's batting cages, which, all honesty, took me a while in order to do, and that's another way to do a side mission. There's the arcade, where it's got all these cool Sega games where you're playing a video game within a video game, and I just freaking love that. These are legitimate games from old Sega consoles and arcade games, and it's just, I mean, I didn't do it that often because I kind of suck at those games, but it's still enjoyable for people who want to play. And it's always enjoyable just to take a break from the story, take a break from the side missions, and just have some old school fun. And then there's gambling in the casino, and gambling all over the town in various sections. Like, there's obviously blackjack in the casino, there's mahjong in mahjong parlors, there's koi koi, which is this card game that it's basically pictures that I still don't understand all the rules, but it's still fun if you want to enjoy it. And then there's shogi, which is basically Japanese chess, and I still don't understand all the rules. I don't. Mahjong, koi koi, shogi, all these games, I hope they make a return in the next game, because I want a rematch. And they there's one mission where you have to help this woman with her family's mahjong parlor, and you actually have to win. And there's an incredible win opportunity where there's actually a cheat you can buy in the game in order to win. And it's so incredibly complex, but I enjoy playing it because it gives me something to do other than getting beaten up by thugs. So I've gone off about the gameplay, a majority, and all the side stuff to do. So the game itself, even though, and okay, the investigation sections, there are a good number of them, and they're really enjoyable. It's basically when you go into first-person shooter, first person, and you're basically looking around and examining the crime scene and any evidence that's thereof. And it's not like the Sherlock Holmes games where you have to connect the dots. Things will connect on their own, but you have to but in certain side missions where you will do this, you will have to come up to your own conclusion sometimes. Other than that, the detective sections are always enjoyable, and a majority of them are during the said story. So it's really, it gets your feet in the water a little bit before you go full overboard. And the scenes where you were in court, that you had to present evidence that the guy's lying, that stuff doesn't happen until like the end game of the story, which, all honesty, I hope there's more of that in the sequel. But overall, I still enjoy the detective sections. Even though it's mostly combat and side missions and mini games, the detective stuff kind of takes a middle seat. Like, it's right there with the main story and the rest of the gameplay, but it's not used as much. It's used a lot more than in Batman Arkham Knight, I'm telling you that. And again, the graphics, the character designs are all so realistic, and the way they talk, the little detail, you can tell that just like in Yakuza 0, the attention to detail and just the way they talk, it just, the emotion and the actual feeling that you, like when you're talking to a badass Yakuza gang, crime lord, you know that it's insane and that you don't want to piss this guy off, if any, in the game. Because even though, if the games have shown you anything, is that the old men are sometimes the most badass characters in the series. And now we get to the boss fights. The boss fights are some of the best moments in the game, mostly because it's not a game where if you do this certain number of times, the boss will give. You will actually have to beat down and retreat, because there are some attacks the boss does that can't be countered. And there's a good majority of the boss fights, from the big league boss fights during the story and the side ones that come in later in the game. And they're all enjoyable, especially the final boss. And I'm not going to spoil anything in the game, but the final boss is one of the most intense final bosses I've ever played in a video game, and I will have to wait next year to get more into that with my top 13 final bosses list that I have scheduled for sometime next year. And oh my lord, it is the biggest reveal I've ever had in a video game when this game came out, but in recent memory, it's still one of the most impressive reveals ever. And it's just done so well and believable. And there's so much emotion, so much, it's not like, oh my god, my mentor betrayed me. Like, seriously, how many times do we have to do that in a series? But it's something bigger, and just the thrill of investigating all the way. Oh, forgot to mention, the guy we're looking for who removes the victim's eyes has been dubbed, because once he strikes, he goes into his burrow, the Mole. I know it's nothing real threatening, but it's still something that's cool to put a name to the figure. And now we've come to the moments of the game that the thing about this game that make it better is the amazing cast. I'm not kidding. once I play it in the Japanese voices, I know it's still going to be as awesome and the emotion's going to be there. But the English cast, I'm going to say this, the Game Hub alumni, a good majority of them, of voice actors I love from games and TV shows, are all here. And a good majority of them are freaking all-stars to me. We've got Matt Mercer, we've got Fred Tatasciore, I think that's how you say it, who voiced Rip Jaws in Ben 10 for me. Okay, I know that's not important to anyone else, but that's important to me. And just his voice is graggly and old, and it just, like, all the voice actors fit the role they're in. When you play it in the Japanese version and you hear their voices coming out of that figure, you know what to expect for the English. And the English cast fit the character perfectly. We also got Crispin Freeman. We've got my man, Steve Bloom. We've got Charme Lia. I think that's how you pronounce her name. You know, Makoto Nijima from Persona 5. Lucy from Fairy Tail. Yeah, her. We've also got Yuri Lowenthal. And we've got another alumni for me, Keith Silverstein. It doesn't matter what this guy voiced. He is intellectual, he is a badass, he is intimidating, and he's got a hell of a fashion sense. I'm just gonna say that right now. And all in all, just the cast feels right. You know how sometimes when you play a game and you hear a character's voice, you can kind of picture a better voice? The English voice is just as good as the Japanese dub. In all honesty, I can't wait to hear this cast once again this week. And again, I've gone through everything I can think of in this game. The boss fights are epic and entertaining, and they're not done too quickly. Sometimes you will actually have to go out your way to level up and get more abilities and more moves, combos, in order to evolve. It's not one of those things where it feels tacked on just for tack on sakes, but it can really save your ass doing all that. So the grind to do these side missions and to gain points, well, not points, but level up, it doesn't feel like it's a chore to do. It feels like you're bonding with these people, and that builds you up in order to take on a huge threat. It's one of those moments, and I love this game for that. So the boss fights are epic as hell, and you really do feel like being close to the edge of dying, and when you make that comeback, the side missions are funny, wacky, sometimes dark, and it's always enjoyable, especially when it's a stupid twist, and it's done very, very well. Like, I know I say that a lot, but I can't explain it anymore. The whole story sinks you into Yagami's regret from the Okubo case, and the entire story will bring you back to that. And it just makes you feel everything from going to your own past from the Okubo case to your past in the Yakuza and your friends who are in the Yakuza and kind of going against them in a way. It just feels like every twist and turn in each chapter. Like, again, it's like a giant crime show that you just can't help but play the next chapter. I know some people take breaks in between chapters, but when it ends on a twist and you need to play the next moment, it's what makes a great game with a great story and cast. So, all honesty, again, the game is at most 27 and a half hours to complete the whole story. Yeah, you heard me right. 27 and a half hours. Where completionists who want to do all the side stuff and get every single trophy, especially once you complete all the side missions, there's a final secret boss that I try to beat. And good Lord, if you guys thought the secret bosses in Kingdom Hearts games are difficult as heck. You're gonna need a lot of energy drinks to get through this guy, because I didn't even beat him. He's that difficult, and honestly, it's not that I gave up. It's just that I know when I'm beat. I know when I'm beat. And it's gonna take 97.5 hours to do all the completionists. And if you're doing the main game and the extras all in one, it's going to take you 44.5 hours. I love that this game isn't like an 8-hour story or a 9-hour story, but it's in the double digits. And a story that has that kind of a length to it, especially in a spin-off game, you know the people behind this game had so much passion and so much, what's the word I'm looking for? They had so much faith that this game would go along to be not as good as the original Yakuza series, not as lame as it, but right alongside it. When a spin-off game does this, and it's this length, and it can compete with the original series and bring in people who want to play this kind of game but don't know the entire Yakuza story, that's fine. You don't have to know anything in order to play this. And that's what makes a spin-off game a spin-off game. I just wish other games that were spin-offs did something like this. Oh, if you guys watched my Miles Morales review, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So with the impressive game length, with the impressive side missions, with the story that sucks you in so deep and gives it all it's got, with an incredible cast, with an incredible fight system, even in this small town map, it's still larger than life, and it shows. So GamerK's final verdict for Judgment is, in my opinion, a 9 out of 10. I know I'm a little biased because I love the crime genre, but when you add it all up with the gameplay, with the cast, with the length, and with the ability to just kick back and relax, have a couple beers in the game, and play old school Sega games, batting cages, a VR game, drone races, gambling, without using your real life money, it's one of those games that does everything the main game, like the main series does, and brings it into a new dimension. And that's all I gotta say about this, ladies and gentlemen. And now I can't wait to play Lost Judgment. Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and join me next week where we end the month of September by doing a list video where it will be Uchu Kita! Yes, you guys don't know what that means. That's why I'm putting the translation right there. This is GamerK, logging off.